Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Slightly Informed Opinions of Dave, the Weedcast. I have an amazing guest on the show lined up, Dr. Jeff Rawson, tonight. He is a very passionate advocate about consumer safety in the cannabis space. He's very passionate about a lot of topics, and we're going to get into that shortly. Before we do that, I have to do a standard disclaimer, and since I'm cheap and I can't afford the paid version of StreamYard, I used to have a little clip that I would play, but I'll just kind of go over the gist of it now. My disclaimer is, don't believe anything I say or anything my guests say. Do your own research. We're not responsible for anything stupid you do because of something you heard or misheard on this show. Hopefully that isn't necessary. We have a much more exclusive clientele on this show. We don't get into any of those kind of hijinks. If you're not aware, you've been hiding under a rock, because I have been doing a lot of amazing content from the MJ Unpacked event that I did in St. Louis here a couple weeks ago. There's a lot of amazing interviews. I've got over 15 videos that I put up here in the last few days. Everything from interviews to, and we're going to have some stuff from the speaking sessions. Dr. Jeff, our guest, that's how I met him, was at one of the speaking sessions. So stay tuned to my YouTube channel. Be sure you like and subscribe and turn that notification button on so that you don't miss any of my exciting content. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do a little intro for our guest, Dr. Jeff Rawson. He, like I said before, he was a speaker at the MJ Unpacked. He was doing a talk on, the topic was something along the lines of, is what on the label actually what's in the jar, which was a fascinating talk. I learned so much. He talked about all kinds of things that are going on inside the cannabis jar that you might or might not be aware of, that the consumer should really like to know about. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Jeff on now, and I'll let him do a more thorough introduction because he has a long list of credentials.
Hey guys, thanks for having me, man. I'm super glad to be here. And yeah,
Hold
my
on
name
just
is Jeff.
There you go. All right, we got you now. Okay, Jeff. You're
All right,
Dr. Jeff, you're ready to go.
all right, right on. Okay, yeah, my name is Jeff. I'm a chemist, and I founded the Institute of Cannabis Science to protect consumers of cannabis. And yeah, I do scientific research and deep dive analysis to figure out what's going on and um, share with consumers what's really happening in their regulatory agencies and the government and how to really shop for their cannabis. Um, but I like to try products. I try all kinds of stuff myself, um, and I write reviews about products, let people know what I think is good or bad or interesting or not, and I do testing and share some of those results to teach people a little bit what's up in their weed. So,
Awesome. Um, I am a little bit remiss here. I wanted to tell people, let's see here if I can get this to work. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're not already, and click that notification button. You can search for Mo High Tide on YouTube. Also join my Facebook group, the Syod, the Weedcast, or you can call me. I'm big a veterans advocate. I'm myself am a former combat veteran, and if you are combat veteran, maybe you're struggling with depression or whatever, man, 22 veterans today are killing themselves. You can call me. If you think nobody cares, you're wrong. Call me. My number's on the screen. Call me. Okay, and also, Dr. Jeff, I have some contact information here that people can get a hold of you. Let's see. Oh, I got the wrong thing highlighted here.
you'll find it.
So, Dr. Jeff Rawson, CANSCI.org, or that email, contact@canci.org, or canci.org on Instagram, and the Institute of Cannabis Science on LinkedIn.
Yep. Yeah.
How do you feel about
Yep.
that, Doctor? Is
You
that all
can
right?
find. Yep. You can find us there. Yep. And I also post on LinkedIn under my own name, and yeah, and yeah, look for our website. Yeah, exactly. www.canci.org. That's where you find all the good stuff.
Yeah, I was creeping around on that website today to do some research on you. There is a lot of good content on there.
Thanks.
There's some stuff on there that I want to get around to talking about later. Also, I don't know, but if you're interested in helping out Dr. Jeff, after listening to the show, if you think that consumer safety and cannabis sciences is something you want to participate in, there's a way that you can help out. You can go to cannsci.org, and there's a donate button. Just click that donate button, and you can participate that way. All right. So, all right.
Thanks for the plug.
Oh yeah, sure, no worries, brother. I'm happy you're on the show. I'm happy to help participate and promote you in any way. I'm already a fan.
Awesome.
So let's see here. I'll start off. I start off the show asking everybody the same question, and if you're comfortable sharing, please share with us your first cannabis experience.
Oh, that's a great question. All right, so my first, I'm a funny one. All right, I didn't, I never smoked weed in high school.
Okay.
All right, I was, I don't know, it's really hard to explain. Like, it's not even that I was really against it. It's sort of like I was nervous about trying anything. I don't know. I don't know I don't know how to explain it. Yeah, there's no good way to make sense of it. But anyway, in college, like I had friends who smoked, and one time I went over. I was hanging out. One guy actually came from a town not far from our little college in the Hudson Valley of New York, and we hung out at this guy's house one night, and a friend who smoked had stopped in Poughkeepsie on the way and stopped on like some street corner and bought some weed. And then he couldn't find his piece anywhere in the car. And so we're just like, all right, like he's just like, all right, fine. I'm gonna smoke this off of like get me an aluminum can.
Okay.
All right. And so we do the thing. We put the divot in it, right? We poke the little holes.
Right.
Right. And it was like a ginger ale can, or like a Canada Dry, maybe. I think it was a Canada Dry, maybe. And so we're all like in the backyard of this guy's parents' house, college students, like smoking off of like a can. And that was my first experience. I had the best time.
So did you
with
feel
my, like,
an intoxicating experience your first time? Did you get high?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. We all got super high, and like, yeah, we just had a great time. Like
That's awesome. You know, some people don't get high their first time, or they get super duper high their first time. Everybody has a different experience. It's very interesting.
I don't know. For me, like, it was like just right. And I remember that like the next day, I just felt really good. Like I just felt like a nice little after effect. Like, and just felt like good. And I was just like, yeah, that was a good fit.
Right on.
You know,
awesome.
like it's just like
that's what we would hope everybody's first experience would be like. Like, wow, that was really pleasant. That was good.
It may not be for everyone the same way, right?
That's true.
Like,
it may not be. Well,
so, but I can't say. You know, like I don't know why it worked. I don't know why it worked out that way for me, but that's how it was, man.
So, and you were probably what, 19 or 20 at that time? I'm guessing.
I believe it was 21.
21.
I believe it was 21.
My first experience was at about 13 years old. Most people experience are about between 11 and 13 years old, believe it or not.
I know, yeah.
Yeah. And that's one reason I asked that question, because I don't think a lot of people are aware of how young a lot of people are when they start smoking or what their experiences are. And I think it's the question is something that binds us all together. We all have that experience, you know, that first time
Yeah.
that we smoke, and it's usually it's an interesting story.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I feel like for me, definitely, especially in the I mean, especially in like the cannabis space, like my story is pretty unusual for like how long I waited to start, right?
Sure,
Like I
sure.
think like yeah, and I just think it's kind of funny. I don't
I think
know. Whatever. Like that's the way it is.
it is funny. It's very interesting. Thank you for sharing. I think of the people that I polled, maybe 10% of people have waited till they're 18 years old or older to
Sure.
smoke. Maybe 10%. I
Yeah.
had Ngilo Belam on. His if I don't know if you know who he is. He's a comedian. He's got a special on Netflix, Cooking on High, and his
Oh.
first experience was he got his camp counselor got him high at camp when he was little, and then he started smoking a little bit, and then his parents found out about it, and they had a conversation with him and said, hey, you know, this is like something like drinking alcohol. This is something that you do when you're older. And then he just didn't smoke again until he went to college, and then he became a big smoker. That was
Sure.
an interesting story. You know,
That's a
everybody's
neat
system.
story too. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
sure,
mean, everyone has their own story, and I think it's totally great. Like,
sure, I agree. Okay, so now we're going to kind of get into it a little bit. Let's talk about your academic journey, which started in chemistry long before your focus on cannabis with a BA from Bard and a PhD from Duke. Very impressive. What initially drew you into the field of chemistry?
I I liked it. I especially what got me really excited about doing chemistry was the organic chemistry course in college. I guess actually when I took chemistry in high school, I didn't like it.
Oh,
Um,
really? Hmm.
yeah, yeah, and it was my worst grade I got in all of high school.
Oh, wow.
I didn't like the
Interesting.
teacher. I didn't like the teacher. I didn't like the way like it just seemed. I don't know. It was just like we all everything that we did. It seemed like it was just really boring.
Hmm.
It was just like balancing these dumb equations and stuff like that that I just didn't care and I didn't get the point. So I got excited about it in college because we had this kind of like interesting organic chemistry professor there, and he was so like he was already like kind of pretty interesting and fun.
Hmm.
And then like the course material was like I don't know, it was just really interesting. Like everything you could work out so much through just kind of like this a sort of system of pencil and paper logic in organic chemistry. And you have really like a pretty small toolbox a lot of times, but there's so much you can do with it. So it's really like it's just a really I don't know, it just turned out to be really fun. And it has a bunch of explanations for like where colors come from, and how base I don't know why some stuff is sticky and some stuff isn't, and some
Right.
is slippery, right? And like like it just like so I don't know. It's just really fun to learn.
So, were you always a science nerd? Like in high school, was science really your thing, or?
It was one thing. I always had a lot of interests. I actually think I was in high school. I think my I wanted to be an artist. Um, um, which I realize now how limited that was. Like, I'm kind of an artistic person, but I would never have it. Like, I could never be like a real artist. Or like I don't have that in me. That's a different level of artistry. But I didn't understand that at the time. But I had lots of interests. When I went to college, I went to this college where you didn't have to declare a major right when you started. You sort of like
Mm-hmm.
do a year first.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was interested in computer science, ancient languages, like
Oh, fun.
um, uh, uh, let's see, what else? I guess those were the main, and then like I was, oh, and biology. Like I thought I was going to do biology, um, but I didn't. But the biology class ended up being boring compared to organic chemistry. So then I did organic.
Okay.
It's like more
Your
fun.
your early postdoctoral work in Germany and at Harvard
Yeah.
involved complex topics like inorganic chemistry and soft robotics. What were you hoping to achieve in your career at that early stage?
Oh man. Well, yeah, the postdoc is an interesting time. So after I got my PhD, um, I was like Dr. Jeff Rawson. So in a way, you kind of feel like, all right, I've done it. Like
I made it. For
I
sure.
did
You
it.
did. That's a huge
Right.
accomplishment. You did do something. Yeah.
Like I didn't think I was going to succeed.
Oh,
I like,
wow.
well, I had kind of like a non-linear journey. So, like I
Okay.
kind of like failed a few times. So, um, but then like I actually had like a very successful PhD, and like made a lot of like good accomplishments, published a lot of good papers, and impressed a lot of people, done a lot of good stuff, mentored a lot of other good people, and taught them really well, and had really great colleagues. So when I went for my postdocs, the postdoc is like your final like apprenticeship before you become a professor, and that was like my goal. Um, and I think if I look at it now, that was like a little bit of like the flaw was like in my postdocs, I was always thinking about how am I going to get to be a professor? And I was
Okay.
like, really anxious about it.
Okay.
And the reason is because I love chemistry so much. I wanted to spend my life teaching chemistry and doing pure research, and and mentoring other scientists, and kind of taking care of. I actually kind of like I care about the science and chemistry like as like a as its own thing, as like an institution itself,
Mm-hmm.
separate from
Sure.
any organization, but just like the science itself. Like I cared about it. I wanted to like do everything I could to like bring it forward. Um, but yeah, in my postdocs, I tried a lot of different research. Um, and I think a lot of times I was trying to figure out, well, like, what am I going to do for my big career thing, And how can I do something really big and impressive again to match like how good my PhD was? And so, like, a lot of my postdoc times were actually kind of times of struggle, um, but also times of figuring out important stuff. So like in the postdoc in Germany, I went to a slightly more off the beaten track research center. I wasn't at it. I mean, I'm not trying to sniff down my nose at it, but it's I wasn't at like one of the Max Planck institutes, which is the top, generally speaking, the top tier of scientific institutes in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because most of their strongest scientific institutes are like government labs instead of universities. Some
Okay.
of their university labs are also quite reputable. It's not to say they aren't, but Germany has a stronger national lab system than the U.S. Although the U.S. has very good national labs, but U.S.
Really?
national labs are more like service labs. Um,
Okay. All
so
right.
yeah. So anyway, sorry for rambling, but like anyway,
No,
like
no,
so
it's okay.
that German. So I was a little more off the beaten track, and I was like the chemist in an institute of mostly physicists, and we were studying molecules that had been evaporated onto um, uh, like reactive metal surfaces in ultra oxygen free environments to like make totally novel like nanostructures. And so I like
Wow.
made the molecules and kind of designed it, but like the challenge with that was to like most of the people I worked with, like I was like just the chemist. So it's like, well, all right, no, you mean you make the molecule, then like okay, like we're done, like which is not like how I work. It's like not the deal with me. So, but so, but I just started, and I did find eventually like a research group that I really resonated with, who didn't treat me that way, but and I had a great interaction with them. So it's not to say that that's like always the case, but like I just realized that there are certain features of being off the beaten track, and that off the beaten track is like that I'm an ambitious person, right? And so I was like, all right, maybe I'm like kind of looking at this wrong. And so I literally just applied to for a postdoc with like the most ridiculously ambitious list of people I could, and one of them was this guy George Whitesides at Harvard. And for some reason, like 5 months after I sent him a application, like a letter applying, he just like sent me an email one day and said, "Hey, I've just been looking at this and thinking about it. I think you should come here." Just like that, just like
Nice.
after like I'd like thought I'd like failed. So
Wow.
like yeah. So like so yeah, so I ended up like going to Harvard and working for someone who's like one of my heroes. Um
Wow.
and who is kind of famous for all for twisting his chemistry into all different kinds of applications and all different areas, and having like he developed a really global reach on science. So yeah, so I learned like I just had like this really incredible training from that point where I don't know, kind of kind of broke me down and built me back up, I guess.
I've had bosses before that have hired me to do stuff that I didn't think I was capable of doing. Sometimes when you have, I don't know, a peer or a coworker or a boss or something that believes in you stronger than you know, they see some potential in you that you don't see in yourself, and then you can achieve more than you think you can. That's a very rewarding experience for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I ever really lived up to it, honestly. But like, I mean, I feel like the thing that I feel like I mean, I do feel like I'm starting to live up to it, and I'm living up to it now. But like, I mean, boy, it was. I mean, you know, I had a pretty. At times that was really rocky too. So, uh, and it was a real. I mean, it's a very complicated relationship. Like, a very top tier aging scientist. He was in his late 70s when I started working with him. Um, who has like he had like basically like 35 other postdocs just like me, recruited like all from all over the world, like all the best in the world, basically. Like, I mean, not that they are not that they're the only like group of best in the world, but still a a selected group, um, like from the world, over, and you know, like in a lot of ways, like it was really competitive, like really challenging, very political in a way that I was never prepared for and had never
Yeah.
experienced before. Like Harvard is a really different place than other places I had been. I had experienced it some at Duke, because there are some people more like this there, but it was just more common at Harvard. Like when you get to top tier places, you definitely like encounter more like really top level scientists and people who are super nice, super committed to what they do, and just like love it, like and just are there because they love their research and are really brilliant at it. But also, there's some people who are just chasing a name and a ranking and just competing and just trying to climb the ladder. And some of those people, especially at Harvard, you start meeting a lot of those people who have incredible, like unusual, superhuman social gifts. And
Sure.
so you
That's a
start
great
encountering
combination.
a really
Yeah.
different environment,
Sure. Yep.
like, yeah, where like the degree, like, yeah, like it's a totally different ball game. You know what I mean? And that was like way over my head. So
Apparently, my wife is watching and she's enjoying the show. And which reminds me, if you're watching the show and you got questions for Dr. Jeff, put them in the chat. I'd love to hear what you guys. I'm sure Dr. Jeff is would welcome all questions from the audience.
definitely.
Okay, let's shift focus just a little bit. In 2018, your focus shifted during your pre-doctoral fellowship at Harvard to the chemistry of electronic cigarettes
Yeah.
and cannabis extracts. What prompted that specific shift?
Yeah. So that's a pretty interesting story. I actually, I was, as I said, like some of my time at Harvard was actually a fair amount of a struggle in a really challenging political environment compared to what I was used to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually, there were times where I didn't feel like I was doing well at all. And like I said, I was super anxious, probably way too focused on some distant goal, which I would advise any listener. It tends to lead to a lot of misery. If you're really focused on someplace where you need to end up next, that is a way to feel really bad about what you're doing right now. Okay. Um, so I was actually struggling there a fair amount, and I got sick. I was
Oh no.
buying electronic cigarette cartridges off the internet because they could be delivered easily, and I could get them. I could like work late at night, and then like go down to like a parking lot outside my building, and someone would deliver them right there. So
Right.
like I could just get it, just be really easy, and and there wasn't at that time adult use in Massachusetts had just barely started, and no dispensaries had opened anywhere around me.
Okay.
So I got sick from those, and I spent a couple weeks in the hospital. And I learned all about this, and I actually was able to analyze my own cartridge after the fact, because even after even your spent cartridge has enough residue for me to analyze with some instruments.
Sure. Yeah.
So I was able to determine that the e-cigs that I had been buying were full of vitamin E acetate.
Oh,
and
wow.
And it was determined that causes this condition called E-valley, and it's like this inflammatory runaway kind of inflammation of the lungs, and they make it stop by giving you a whole bunch of steroids. After that experience, I wrote an article about the risk of these unregulated and untested e-cigs, and how I nearly died from it.
Right.
And it got published in the Boston Globe.
Yes, it did. Yep.
And so after I did that, my advisor, this senior scientist, right, who's known for his good writing, he told me that was really well written, which is it's kind of like it's like the best thing he can say
wow.
to you.
Very nice. Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
It's about as good as you can do, especially if you felt like you were in the shithole for time. So, right. But then after that, he'd only talk to me about e-cigs and lung health and stuff like that. So I realized, oh, that's my research project now. And so that's what I did.
Nice. So you actually answered my next question, which was going to be talking about the article you did in the Boston Globe. So we'll move right along. How did that personal and life-threatening experience fundamentally change your perspective on the cannabis industry and your role within it?
Well, yeah. Oh, that's so, yeah. It's so interesting because obviously that was a very abrupt turning point.
Sure. Yeah.
But to some degree, of course, also it's developed, right? And also that event keeps informing me. Right? There are a few different features of that event that I remind myself of a lot. The first one is, the first thing I did when I went to the emergency room is I lied about what made me sick.
Okay.
Because and it turns out that's a pretty normal thing for people to do if they make themselves sick with their drugs. We're embarrassed.
Sure.
Right? We feel like it's our fault, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So it's just interesting to remember how much or how fallible information is that you're getting from human beings when they tell you about what they did to themselves and why they're sick. And that comes up a lot in consumer protection. that you actually you got to look at the literature really carefully when you're trying to figure out what's going on, because a lot of times people don't know what the hell made them sick. So,
Okay.
yeah, like in my case, I had like really good really good evidence,
Hmm.
unusually good evidence to prove exactly what had kind of done it or really
Sure.
demonstrated, right? So, um, so that's one thing. Another thing is that I've smoked weed lots and lots of times, and you might assume that vaping would be safer, but smoking weed never sent me to the hospital.
There you go.
So
Right.
they're kind of different, and that means it's complicated when you're talking about safety, right? Like smoke is full of a lot of dirt, um, and so it may have more chronic harm, but there may be certain other risks. I mean, you don't always know everything, right? Like, and you just because the one looks dirtier than the other, you don't know everything all the time.
Right.
So, yeah, yeah, I learned that, and yeah, the other thing I call upon a lot is that even if regulations aren't perfect, more regulated markets tend to be more successful or more safe than less
Okay.
regulated ones
I was just
in
gonna say that.
general,
I was just gonna say
but
that.
there can always be, there can always be exceptions to the rule of like a particular brand that may just do a really great job, even though they're in a non-regulated market. It just turns out that like the people who are going to be like more careful, um, are I mean, the people who go to the people who set up businesses in regulated markets, at least you know that they are way more patient with filling out paperwork and doing everything by the book, right?
Right. They're not trying to hide. They're not doing something shifty by trying to skirt around the rules or avoid the testing or making
Yeah,
sure that their
well,
products aren't under some
they've also
scrutiny.
showed you that they at least had that much patience for that much, right?
Mm-hmm. For
So
sure.
maybe they also have enough patience for safety. But like, if someone didn't have patience to even go through all that paperwork and junk, like, do you think that they also have the patience to do a really good job and put out a quality product?
Gosh, I would hope so. Yeah.
Not always, though, right? Like, it's tough. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, if you can't get through all that paperwork and stuff, maybe you don't have what it takes to get through the. I mean, putting out a quality product consistently that's actually safe for everybody and economical is not like falling off a log, right? It's probably harder than doing all that paperwork. So,
Well, yeah, there's been instances in Missouri where recalls have happened because they've received product that they thought was one thing, but what they were actually getting was something else, and then all
oof.
that product had to be remediated.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
terrible.
yeah, that's happened. I think that the incident that I'm talking about specifically was the laws in Missouri are that the cannabis that gets sold in Missouri has to come from Missouri, and somebody bought some cheap concentrate from out of state, and they were bringing it in that way, and so all those products that concentrate went into had to be recalled. I think is eventually what ended up happening.
Hmm.
So let's see here. Was your experience with the vaping, was that the catalyst that led you to found the Institute of Cannabis Science in 2022?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, that yeah, it would be impossible to say that isn't the reason I continue to do consumer advocacy today. So, the story of how I got from there to the institute has had a couple of other twists and turns, but like the long and the short of it was that I became more understanding as I did some research myself just about like e-cig hardware, how it works, what are good ways to analyze it.
Mm-hmm.
I even
Mm-hmm.
made some like mock um, e-cigs and like did vaping experiments and measured the compounds that came out, and did
Oh, how
different
fun!
experiments to test like,
That's cool.
to see if there were reactive intermediates coming out of it or anything harmful, right? Like that sort of stuff, right? Um, but I just became over time I became more aware of sort of like the the fact that products in the consumer space, like in dispensaries,
Mhm.
that there weren't the normal checks on them that we have for other products. So for most products, there are like different kinds of consumer protection organizations, or even in some cases, government offices that do different things. Like, and it's also sometimes activists, right? They they buy products and see if they're actually right,
Mhm.
and they test stuff. In Massachusetts, we have this little state government office that actually goes to like gas stations and grocery stores and makes sure that the scale in the grocery store actually measures a pound correctly, and that the
Right.
gas
Yeah.
pump
Yeah.
pumps a gallon, and
Right.
that it's
Yep.
accurate. And
Yep.
people actually check it. And the reason they do that is because it's not always right, but the more often you check it, the more right it's going to be,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So, and like it's useful to think about these things as sort of a spectrum. So I just realized, well, right now there's nobody checking this, and so like, and it turned out that as I dug into it and looked for evidence, that yeah, right, and the horse is like running out of the barn because there's no door, you know.
Right. Yep. Yep.
So yeah, so that was really like my that is honestly my that was really kind of my thought process was, well, I'll make this consumer protection organization that will try to do some of that job that's missing right now, because I don't know, this is just usually in the past, often like this has actually been what happened. It's like it's hard for us to believe this now, but like it used to be easy to buy like medicines that were just total bunk, right?
Sure.
Or or like
Snake oil.
spoiled food that was disguised as not, like it used to be like it used to, and it used to be that all kinds of workplace abuses went undocumented.
Sure.
So and actually, like, there's a pretty like interesting heroic history of different kinds of activists, journalists, concerned citizens, and nonprofit founders who have brought us like the safe consumer space that we have today. And it was really a lot more people like that than like the government itself. Although the government gives you lots of like levers, and people have all and has also provided really important laws, such as the ones that got lead out of all of the metals around us. So uh, so I've actually I've become inspired by that whole history, and just recognized there was a need for something in the cannabis space that was like that. So that was really my motivation.
Well, your mission at the Institute is to use science to protect consumers of cannabis. What does that look like in day to day practice? How does that work when the rubber meets the road, so to speak, Doctor?
Yeah. So when the well, when the rubber meets the road, it really means like we use we do analysis, and we're reflective, and we try to tell people the truth. We examine data and facts and information, and we try to give people honest analyses of that. And whether those people are consumers, if we're communicating with them directly, like in product reviews, like tasting testing, um, or if it's white papers or direct communications with lawmakers and regulators, um, uh, or if it's the scientific community, when we go to conferences and give our talks to other people, and when we publish papers, or formal research articles. So recently I've published actually like a pretty interesting expose. It's on talkingjointsmemo.com. So yeah, I don't know. I could give you the link if you want. Like it's
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, please do. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's yeah. So yeah, I could even gosh, I don't know. I could give it to you now. um, I yeah, but I published this article about how our regulatory agency has been working, and a lot of the ways that actually like the enforcement and safety hasn't been, I guess, like hasn't been prioritized, um, and has sometimes really been inhibited by other interests. So yeah, this article is called um, "Regulatory Capture and Retaliation" at the top of the CCC, and that's our regulatory agency. So it's pretty spicy. Um,
It sounds like it is. I will definitely have to give it a look.
yeah.
Um,
So
I'm kind of waiting for this question here. My next question is your work involves educating regulators. We just spoke about that. And investigating product quality. What is the most common and dangerous piece of misinformation you're currently fighting?
oh wow. um, gosh, I feel like for right now, like the thing that I noticed that's uh, really profound is the difference between, say, dispensary market, many products in dispensary markets, and the ones that I buy like online. Um, but in a different way. I've looked at it a lot recently with gummies. Um, and if I go to a smoke shop or I buy gummies online, then the accuracy of their dosage is much less than if I go to a dispensary. Um, and I don't know all the reasons of it, but I think it must track back to that thing I said earlier about how, like, in a more regulated market, they've probably done more checks and are more careful to make sure that they're actually formulating correctly each time, because it's harder than it looks to do that consistently, you know?
Some of some of what you're saying I've seen firsthand, and
Yeah.
the reason why is because I've been in a lot of dispensaries. I have a micro business dispensary license, so I run in these circles. I don't have a dispensary; I just have the license.
Yeah.
And I've also been in a lot of smoke shops, and you can tell that the product that's in dispensaries is a better quality. And I think the reason why is because it's regulated. These smoke shops, a lot of times,
Yeah.
they're not under the same scrutiny. They're not required to do the same testing and so forth that dispensaries are. And I think it comes down to, you're right, people, they're just not getting checked as much as the dispensaries are. So not that the product is worse or better or whatever, it's different. And I think it goes to
Yeah.
exactly what you said. It's just not
But
regulated or tested
yeah,
as
but
much.
unfortunately, it may have been produced with less care,
Yes, yeah,
right? And
that could be
so
true.
that's the big concern. You know, I see a lot of signs. I would say I see lots of signs of that. Including mistakes on the packaging and typos and and statements on the website that mention different active ingredients than the package.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So yeah, some really yeah,
How
like
often does that happen? Like you're looking at some product, and this happens all the time. This is a common thing. It happens all the time. I'm looking at some product on the website. It says Blue Dream 21.7 THC or whatever, and then I get to the dispensary, and when I read the label on the product that I buy, that's not what I got.
oh
I got
wow.
the Blue Dream, but all the numbers are wrong.
Yeah.
It's because it's batch specific. Every time they do a batch, they pull
Mhm.
another test, and the information that you're seeing online is from an older test.
Yeah. Well, in some cases, what I mean is, like, I'm looking at products that are, again, like gummies, and like um, on the package, it'll say that it has Delta 8 THC. On the website, it'll say that it has HHC and THCP. Like, they'll have weird, confusing things like that. It's way more common with the smoke shop things. I don't see it really with dispensary ones, but um,
Right.
they
Yes.
tend to have stuff like that.
Yes.
They claim these weird mixes of compounds, and you can't even figure out how many milligrams of each one. It'll just say, like, oh, it's 100 milligrams, and then it'll say delta 9, like delta 9, delta 10, HHC, CBD. And you're like, so what? I don't know what this is.
Yeah, it's confusing. It is
Yeah,
confusing. I've Googled it several times because I thought I know what I was talking
yeah.
about, and then I go do a little bit of research, or I hear somebody say something that doesn't seem like that jives with what I know, and yeah, it can be confusing and complicated, even for people that think they know what they're doing. And I'm not even a scientist or a chemist, doctor. It's very confusing for me. I'm glad there's people, large-brained people like you, that are looking out for us. I appreciate you, brother.
Well, thanks, man. I don't think my brain is extra large or anything. It's just I'm just I'm just applied. Like I don't know. I just did a special thing. I
Right.
just did something particular.
Well, well, we all have talents, in different areas.
Yeah.
Some people, use their a talented pianist. I love going to, I love going to the opera or to the
Mhm.
see a concert. Those people are so talented, and people at the
Yep.
top of their game are very interesting to talk to. They're usually very motivating. I
Hmm.
just went to see some Beethoven stuff at uh, s- uh, at a thing in Kansas City that was wonderful. I had to leave halfway through though because I kept falling asleep. The music was wonderful, but it was very
Oh,
relaxing. I didn't
yeah,
want to
yeah.
start snoring, during the middle of the presentation or the concert.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, okay, so this kind of will change a little bit. You're deeply involved with the ASTM committee on vape
Yeah.
device safety. How does your personal experience inform the standards that you're helping develop now?
Yeah. So, yeah, the working with that committee is really interesting. So, what ASTM does, for people who don't know, is that's one of these groups, that I sort of alluded to before. One of these safety groups that has formed.
Mm-hmm.
It was formed by, I think, a group of engineers in maybe the 40s. I don't know. I'm probably totally butchering that. But anyway, it's a longstanding group that developed especially standards. And they probably go back before the 40s. Someone will be angry at me for that. That's okay. I apologize. Anyway, they so they but what they do is they develop standards and definitions of what stuff is. And that might
Okay.
sound really mild, but it's important, right? Because like one standard that you might care about is like when someone says that it's like hash rosin and solventless, what does that actually mean?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And can someone sell me like some um right? Can someone sell me some distillate pen, say,
Yeah.
right? And then say, oh, this is liquid hash rosin, live resin, again, like, I don't know, or just like whatever, like they can indica sativa hybrid,
Right. Yeah.
like,
What's
right? But like
that?
people use all kinds of words
Yeah.
for uh when they're for cannabis products, but nobody has actually defined precisely what they mean, right? And you actually need to. That's actually the first step to making anything enforceable. If nobody can say what, if nobody can say what's actually real hash rosin versus just some like lab made bullshit, then someone can sell whatever they want as hash rosin,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And
Right.
and there's nothing you can do about it. And they can say, well, nobody know, some people think this is hash rosin, right? They can
Exactly.
literally
Yeah.
just say that. They can
Right.
say, some
Yep.
people think this is hash rosin, so whatever, like you have nothing, you have no case.
I think that's a very strong point. We all have to agree on what things are. Words matter and definitions matter. For example, and I don't want to get into this, but just as an example, if everybody could agree on what the definition of racism is, we could probably all have an intelligent conversation with each other. I think a lot of times people are talking across each other because they're not even coming from the same place. This
Mhm.
person is arguing this thing, and they're having an argument. They're not even on the same page. Same thing can
Yeah,
happen, like with what you're saying, right?
yeah. Well, and big labels are often dangerous. So, right, they have a lot of risks in our, in discourse, right? So, yeah.
Here's
Um,
Well, I wanted to save this for later, but I'm afraid that I won't remember it, so I'm going to bring it up now. There's two things that I'd like to see two things I'd like to see changed on labels when I go to buy product at a dispensary. One is the package date. When was this item? When was this item produced? How long has it been sitting on the shelf? I would love to see a when this thing was produced date. Another thing I would like to see is labels that are printed with a type font that is large enough for me to freaking read without a magnifying glass.
Yeah.
You know what? Who cares what's in the stupid label if I can't read it? It doesn't matter what's on the label. Come on, people, that's ridiculous. They're doing like this tiny font. I actually literally had to bring it home, put my reading glasses on, and then use a magnifying glass to read this stupid thing. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Sometimes what I do, I take a photo. I take a photograph with my phone.
Yeah.
And then I zoom way in on the phone screen, right? And I'm like, or even if I'm like, or I send it to my computer so I can so I can read so I can actually read the whole label without having to like scroll around on my.
Sure.
That's how old I am.
Well, what do you think about my idea to have a born on date?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, yeah. I didn't realize that in Missouri you don't have a package date, and that is a right crying shame because that package date can really matter, man.
For sure.
It seems like a year is a long time in cannabis package life, depending on factors. I mean, sometimes it may still be awesome if the package was like really nice and tight, and
temperature controlled.
Yeah, right. And if the conditions around it were good,
right.
Right. My understanding is that, and also if the cure is good, right? It depends on how well it's cured. So, and the quality to begin with. So, definitely I have seen evidence and heard people, lots of people with long experience growing weed, who can pull out like jars of stuff from 5 years ago that is still like really, really great.
Oh, really? Wow. Huh.
And really has not degraded that much at all. So I think with a proper cure and great storage conditions, that can be possible. But I also think that the shelf life can be considerably shorter depending on other factors. And that's not even to mention the effects of just banging it around, which actually makes a big difference with cannabis.
So what kind of things are going on inside the package that might cause a product to degrade while it's sitting on the shelf?
Yeah, so there are natural chemical reactions that just happen with those molecules.
Right.
If there is oxygen present inside the package, then one of those then one thing that can happen is oxidation, which can really actually degrade your cannabinoids into other cannabinoid derivatives, but ones that are less good.
Ones that aren't going to give you the effect you were hoping for.
Yeah, and not going to give you as much of what you hope for. Really the main thing that happens over the short term to medium term is that the naturally occurring THCA, which is the carboxylic acid, homolog maybe of derivative of THC. That's actually the compound that the plant makes when it starts. So by an enzyme, and then THCA gradually transforms into THC naturally. So
it does. Okay.
Yeah, but the rate of that process depends on the temperature. So if it's kept nice and cool, and also also environmental factors, I believe, for example, like moisture presence must be really important, and so that's one of the reasons that the cure matters so much. But as long as it's THCA, it's really quite a stable compound, and THC is also pretty good, but less. So THC can start degrading into other stuff, and one of those products is CBN. But there is a common misconception that THC is like rapidly all turning into CBN, and that's totally like that's not the case. Like a lot of your THC is degrading into other stuff that nobody even knows what it is. So um, like, and probably also depends on the conditions, so that like universal rules are hard to draw yet, right? Because you'd have to have like, I mean, yeah, it's really tough experiments. If you think about the kinds of experiments you need to do to really understand all the factors in like aging, you'd have to like simultaneously vary like humidity, temperature, the cures, try for all different strains because it probably matters, right?
Right.
Like, yeah. So I don't see us having like firm answers for all this stuff anytime soon, um, but those are some general rules. Is that like um, for I think a lot of the trouble is that a lot of people are betrayed by their packaging. They don't realize that like something that seems airtight, and you could suffocate a small animal in it, right? Like that doesn't mean it's airtight, like stopping
Microbes.
zero oxygen from getting in over the course of months, like,
Oh, true. Yeah.
right? Like maybe, like, yeah. So, right. And in fact, like, you know, in principle, no barrier is totally impermeable, right? But I mean,
Yeah.
in practice, a few containers are pretty impermeable, but some quite a bit less. So I think to some degree, some people's, like if their cannabis gets above room temperature or above, stored that way for a long time. Um, if the packaging is not really super super tight, um, yeah, um, those can be additional risks, and then it's drying out more, it's losing terpenes perhaps. um, it's also
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
difficult it's also a difficult case that a material that is totally impervious and blocks all water like may some other compounds might actually dissolve in it.
Oh.
So,
Hmm.
you know,
Interesting.
so these things can, like, the way stuff works can be more complicated than you might anticipate. And, all of this, like, especially like the, this is like this sounds like a really weird point, and this doesn't make sense to people sometimes at first, but I feel like it's going to come across to you, right? Like all of this like commercial cannabis where we like put it in neat little packages and like sell it like in a store where like people can like buy it on like shop for it on the website first and come in and pick it up or whatever, right? This is so new.
Oh, true. Yeah.
you know
Yep.
I don't think people know how to handle cannabis for that purpose. I think like people who have a lot of experience growing weed and know how to grow really great weed, that doesn't mean they're experts at like selling packaged consumer goods, right? Like,
For sure. Yeah.
and yeah. So anyway, I think it does us a lot of good sometimes to be open minded with how much we still have to learn about how to really make it all work.
One thing that I think people may not think about was, and I didn't even think about it until I listened to your talk, which is, and we talked about this a little bit earlier. So, like, say there's a big batch of flour and it gets tested, right? You send it out, they
Yeah.
test it for all different kinds of like heavy metals, and let's say it comes back and it's got some kind of harmful bacteria. So,
Sure.
what happens at this point is a remediation process happens. The state says, sorry, this is not safe for you to sell. You can try and fix this. We'll test it again later. And if it passes the standards at that time, we'll allow you to sell it. So let's say they go through some kind of a process where they get all this weed back, they kill all the bacteria, they get it tested again, and voila, all the bacteria is dead. The test comes back fine, but there could still be issues.
Hmm.
Talk about that, Dr. Jeff.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So, yeah, so the process that you're talking about, remediation, right? That's referring to some sort of a kill step. All
Mm-hmm.
right. that's intended to like sterilize the organisms, right, that are on the cannabis.
Right.
Um, so if it's already testing for excessive organisms, and they're actually a dangerous level of organisms in the cannabis, the thing that's going to be dangerous about the organisms usually is the compounds that they've excreted, right? It's like actually chemistry again, because um, the reason that some microbes are bad to have in your cannabis isn't because smoking microbes is like bad for you. I mean, any more than smoking flower is bad for you. I mean, one way or another, you are lighting cells on fire and you're
Right.
breathing what comes out. Okay.
Yeah.
Like it's not like the microbes are like made out of something so much worse, right? The problem is that some microbes, as part of their life process, especially once they multiply up to certain critical size colonies and start interacting with each other a lot more, they start excreting toxic compounds to fight each other and dominate. And those toxic compounds are bad for their competitors and they're bad for you and me.
Right.
So, and the real problem is that if microbes have multiplied to the point where, where they're at a dangerous level in cannabis flower, then that remediation process is probably not going to help with
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And that could still, and doing that remediation process won't stop that cannabis flower from possibly like giving me a headache or making me throw up,
Right.
or or contributing to more chronic health risks if I keep getting exposed to the same stuff again and again.
Right.
Many of these are like like chronic sensitizers. So that's the big risk. I think like a big challenge that we have now is that a lot of nobody knows what levels and thresholds to actually set to be reasonable for these microbial limits. And so what has happened is I feel a fair amount of safetyism where people say, well, if we don't really know, let's set the limit really low. And that
Okay.
might sound like, oh, that's better. That's being safer, right? But that could also be really stupid because like maybe you're making it impossible. And then maybe people are going to use remediation all the time, right? And then
Okay.
like, and then maybe you're not going to be catching cannabis that's actually spoiled,
Right.
right?
Okay.
And distinguishing it, right? Like if if lots of totally fine cannabis fails the testing, then the way that the testing works isn't okay. I mean, I think that's kind of that feels like pretty clear when I say it. I don't know. Maybe that's like, yeah, like it shouldn't fail a bunch of weed that's actually totally fine to smoke, right?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
um, the testing, the point of the testing is to actually be effective for public health, and so I'm afraid that in some cases you end up with unintended consequences if you set those thresholds too low, um, and I feel like yeah, I'm concerned that that could squeeze out like good organic cannabis, which I find um, I have actually tried a whole range of cannabis, and I mean I appreciate a lot. If you go to our website, cansci.org, like you and go to tasting testing, you'll see that I have tried and given positive ratings to products from even a couple of pretty big companies. All right, in some cases. So I'm not a universal craft snob. All right, but I do have friends who grow exclusively in living soil, and with really great, small scale craft technique. It's more like having someone's personal produce from their home garden, right? So, I
Can't.
don't think
Yeah.
it's not really fair to compare that to stuff you buy
No.
at the grocery store. You're kind of
Not
being a
really.
dick,
No. Yeah.
Um, anyway, like I've generally found that the most exciting stuff that I have, um, is grown in living soil with more holistic pest management techniques, and
I I will.
that makes it a lot tougher. That's a much higher risk profile for this testing environment. That's like the fair way to put it, I think. Not to say what's possible or impossible, because I think those are the wrong ways to look at it, but it's just not going to be practical maybe for a lot. It could offer real challenges for a lot of people. Um, yeah.
I personally also have noticed that cannabis grown in living soil I find to be much higher quality than other methods of growing. I think overall the smoke is, at least from my experience, has been not nearly as harsh, much easier. It seems like it's much easier for my lungs to breathe that in and out. You're breathing in smoke, so it's
Yeah.
not going to be easy anyway. And it just seems like it's a much pleasurable experience all around.
Yeah, I feel like it. Uh, I think I notice more complex flavors. Like I just think that the flavor profile ends up being more rich and complicated when it's grown with those techniques. And I suspect that, I've also seen some research that suggests that plants grown in those sorts of conditions tend to express like broader varieties of compounds,
Okay.
like chemical compounds that they put out, like all these odor compounds and terpenes and THC and cannabinoids. So it tends to increase the diversity. And some of my understanding from talking to some plant scientists is that that likely comes down to the fact that the plant is way more stimulated because actually a friend of mine named Jeremy Kletke explained to me that the cannabis plant is a very intelligent plant. It's not like not every plant is as interesting and intelligent and responsive as the cannabis plant. The cannabis plant has a million different like chemical signals that it knows how to give out in response to a million different stimuli. The
Like
cannabis
too
plant,
much, like too much sun or too much rain or
well, yep,
insects or
yep, yeah,
environmental
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Like one of the examples that someone explained to me is like, so the cannabis plant, like some of its compounds that it excretes may be used to like recruit a predator that's going to eat the insect that's eating the plant,
Mm-hmm. Right.
right? Or to
Amazing.
warn neighboring cannabis
How does
plants, or to or to talk to other plants that aren't cannabis plants, and you don't know what they're talking about or
right.
what these signals mean, or if it's talking.
Right.
Like right, like you don't really know what I mean. We don't know exactly what intelligence means in a plant, right?
Yeah.
Because we can't
Right.
totally perceive it. But um but we see that it is actually like experiencing a bunch of stimuli and
Yeah.
responding in a bunch of complicated ways that seem to be tailored to its environment and long evolved. And so, and we experience that partly as like its effects and flavor profile. So, so I think that like there is something to say that when you take the cannabis plant and you grow it in like a more sterile environment, maybe with with less complicated sources of nutrients, like just some simple salts instead of like their native environment of having this really, soil is pretty complicated, like biomaterial, right?
Rich soil. Yeah. With
It's full of
decaying
all kinds of
organic matter.
organisms,
Yeah.
and those organisms are doing really complicated things. I mean, the minerals are all really tightly bound up. There aren't any free minerals in soil. They're either the minerals are all either bound up in grains of mineral, or that at like the moment that they break free and or become available in solution, some organism scoops them up in one of their in a the every single metal ion actually gets ferried around in a big molecule that's designed to ferry them around. All right. these like organisms, fungi, bacteria in this and algae in the soil, sort of like transport all these mineral ions around, right? And so if you're trying to replicate that process by just dunking your roots in a solution, like good luck, homie.
Yeah, yeah. Good
Like
luck, homie. That's exactly
like
right. Yeah,
it's like a really complicated dance that's happening in there. And
right.
something about that is tickling the plant. Like
Um,
it knows.
Bonk to the Dome had an interesting comment. He said the plants don't like a lot of these foods to give to them now. And I think what he's trying to say is when you give these artificial foods to the plants, they make they make the taste of the plant stronger, and it makes it taste different.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly why they do. What do they call that? Like a couple weeks before harvest, they do kind of a purge. I forget what they call
Flush,
that.
yeah.
A flush. There you go. A flush to get all those stuff out that they've been trying to grow those big buds with. Now they're trying to get it out of the plant because it makes it taste harsh or terrible or whatever. Or they're just not good stuff to have in the plant when you smoke it.
Yeah, yeah, you know, I'm very aware of like all the thinking around that. Um, I haven't examined the evidence myself, so like I don't know how much to say about how much it's true. But I mean, other than I will just say that it does kind of make sense. Like the plant in its native environment, like with its with its toes in the dirt and and a lot of like natural processes happening in that dirt. Um, there are many buffers um, and many kind of gateway steps to the nutrients going into the plant, and it's regulated in a lot of different steps along the way. And when you take out some of those steps and simplify it, um, then it does make sense that right, like you could kind of flood it, and that you're actually kind of like partly you're trying to get it to grow like as big buds as possible
Right.
by kind of like over by just overfeeding it, I guess. I don't know like how else to say it, right? And so maybe
Mm-hmm.
then the plant is going to build up more metabolic byproducts from all that overfeeding. Maybe it's not the food itself, but like maybe it's just kind of like but just like the whatever the plant transports in, and then its chemical mechanism of storage. But like one way or another, right? Like yeah, sure, it makes sense, right? And at the same time, the plant isn't responding to as many stimuli and having all those processes regulated as much, then maybe it misses some of the steps that I don't know lead to some of the complexity of flavor, or yeah, what's interesting. I don't know. Um, these are definitely subtle things, and I'm not
Sure.
saying I would definitely not claim that like I could like smoke some weed and I could tell you whether it was grown like with like how it was grown. Like I'm not gonna.
Sure. Right. What nutrients it
Maybe
used or
some people say that they can, and
sure. Not me. Yeah.
I don't challenge them about that, and I don't know. I don't know what they can do. Like I can't.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
not that smart.
Some people have a little bit more refined palate than me, for sure. As far
Definitely than me. Like I'm an amateur kind of a taster. I am the one good fortune I've had is I've gotten to hang out with guys who actually grow weed and try lots of different strains, and they are better tasters than me, and they will do things like pass me one joint and say, "Taste this. It's
right,
this.
sure. Yeah.
Taste for this, and then taste this." Right? Like, and they kind of like, and so I've had a little bit of coaching, which like is just a gift. I mean,
That's the best
it's
way
so
to
much
learn.
fun.
That's the best way to
Yeah,
learn.
it's like tasting
you can
wine.
learn the
Actually,
taste of the
like people
different
learn it.
terpenes and so forth. Yeah, you can kind of get a taste for. Yeah, absolutely. Doctor, we're coming up on the end of the program, and
Oh,
I
yeah,
have
already. My
been a little
gosh,
bit remiss. I haven't even
my
got to all
fault.
this stuff. There's a lot more stuff that I wanted to cover, but
You got to so much already.
yeah, I know. Before we get to all that, I wanted to ask you if there's anything that you wanted to tell the audience about what you're doing right now, or stuff that you've got coming up that you'd like to involve people in? Is there any kind of stuff like that that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, well, there's a link I would love people to check out. I put it in the studio chat, and I don't know if it's
Sure.
easy for you to share that with the audience in some way, but uh, that's a link to this article that I wrote recently. And so, if you like a deep dive into um, uh, some pretty shady dealings and maybe understanding a little bit more of what really goes on and why those regulatory agencies seem to take so long with those enforcement actions, then um, yeah, and why it's so hard to get all this done, then you can read this deep dive. All right, and I promise you, there is some pretty exciting intrigue in there if you look for it. Um,
Well,
so that's one thing for sure.
I will put the link in the description of the video when I upload it to YouTube later, so people can
Dynamite,
check
that's
that
awesome.
out.
Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah.
So one thing that I kind of wanted to go over, I saw a lot of pictures of you on your website with that orange box. What is that crazy orange box? Tell us about the magic orange box.
Oh man, so yeah, when I so in my tasting testing series, I've used the Orange Photonics Light Lab, and it's that is the so and they actually have the Orange Photonics now has more than one instrument. So I should
Oh,
specify that yeah, they have a they also they there's a Orange Photonics has a box that tests psychedelics.
oh,
Um, and they've just put out a box specifically tailored for beverages,
oh.
um, and which I think is a good idea. And maybe I gave it to them. I don't know. I told them I told them that I told them that their whole approach was especially good for beverages, better for beverages than like any other product, and better for beverage. Yeah, the orange box is almost as good for the beverage as a HPLC.
Oh, really?
So yeah, yeah. So anyway, yeah. So but the thing I was using was the Light Lab 3 HS cannabis analyzer. So what it does is it measures cannabinoid content, um, and so I can test flower. I actually could test you know, even hash rosin, gummies, um, beverages. Like I said, it works great with beverages, and it's a lot of fun. I have learned so much from measuring stuff myself. Um, like you really understand more. And recently, what I started doing was not just measuring it, but I bought just like the cheapest, chintziest digital microscope
Okay.
um, from Amazon, right? And like, or I mean, an online retailer, um, and uh, um, and 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 like, but like even with this really chintzy microscope, if I like get the lights just right, sometimes I get like really great like glittery trichome pictures,
Yep.
right? So it's pretty cool, like for a stupid chintzy thing, just to see if it's actually worth it. Like I decided, well, that was a pretty good experiment.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
like you start getting like a lot better idea when you start looking at more parameters like that. So you know, I also, of course, I learned a lot about the anatomy of the cannabis flower,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is even more beautiful when you look at it up close. So yeah, so yeah, so anyway, yeah, I've had a lot of fun using that instrument, and like, I mean, honestly, one of the things that I have learned about cannabis flower is that the the precise level of THC that's in your flower is not the most important thing. I mean, definitely as your THC tolerance goes up, you're going to find that you feel less high, and that if you kick up and dump in more THC anyway, like you will feel higher in the short term, right? But like even that's going to peak out eventually. All right. And um and at some and like I've been at the point where I'm dabbing THCA like almost pure, you know, it's like some sugar or something, you know, it's like
Yeah.
pretty much it's like very high THCA content, not a lot of other stuff there. Um and like I'm still not feeling anything, right? I mean, you can get to that point if you want to, all right?
For
So
sure.
like
Yeah.
that's not really the point though. And
No.
actually, like, I can get a great experience out of some flower that's 14% THCA sometimes, right? Like that's plenty for me, man. And
Yep.
uh, it's it's partly about how much you smoke, and it's partly about how you want to feel, and it's also partly about that ain't the only compound that makes a difference, and that's not the only factor. It's more complicated.
Well, and terpenes also are not the only other factor. Those are just
Yeah,
another part of what makes the entire cannabis plant do the stuff that it does once we
yeah.
ingest it. We still don't fully comprehend what's going on. We're just scratching the surface at this point. Would you say
No, it's
that's an
all
accurate assessment, Doctor?
no. Yeah, I agree that there's like I think like the thing I remember a lot, I try to remind myself a lot, right? Because like I'm an experienced scientist, man. Like I spent a really long time in academia. Like I didn't like, you know, I, I'm I didn't even like I didn't do like a fast PhD, if you know what I mean, right? Like I did like an extra long one. Like I did really a lot of research. I've done lots and lots of teaching. I did, like I had a long, pretty substantial time before I got into this weed stuff. Um, and so there are times where maybe I like feel kind of good about myself or feel pretty sophisticated, but I just remind myself that there's still
Oh, yeah.
so much more that I don't know
Yeah, for sure.
than there is that I know, right? And that is a great way of describing cannabis is there's so much more that we don't yet understand and don't know. Like we are so early in this.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and people really looking at it with careful scientific methods and cutting edge techniques and high budget methods. And so like there's not that many like really experienced scientists in it. There are a few really great luminaries, and then there's a lot of like new beginners who are just getting started, who are promising, but they've got a long way to go. So
Right. Yeah.
like it's an exciting field to be in. You know,
Yeah, a lot of new emerging information and technologies and things like that. Yeah, for a science nerd, it's a
yeah.
exciting place to be, right?
Yeah, that is really the case. I mean, like, I definitely did not set out to be like, oh, I want to be the weed scientist. Like, that would be cool.
Right.
Like, that's
Right.
not the validation I needed. Like I said, like I wanted to be a chemistry professor because I loved chemistry and wanted other people to think it was as cool as I did. Like, um, I yeah, I like doing what I do because I am a chemist, and I feel that has given me a lot of skills and understanding that really helps, because having good scientific skills and understanding is useful when you're trying to do something like regulate cannabis efficiently and effectively. There's a lot of science there. But really, like, what matters to me is that this is a chance where I can use chemistry to do something that's actually like valuable for a lot of people. Um, because when you do something that impacts public health and that touches cannabis, which right now is one of the things that's changing fastest in our society, right? The place of cannabis in our society is changing rapidly right now. So that means it's kind of like a very impactful area where if I do some good things, maybe they help a lot of people, right? Um, so that's a really lucky opportunity, right? And like you said, everything in weed, it moves so fast, and there's so much new stuff to discover, and there's so many opportunities, and it's also just you just meet like the most like eccentric, like fun, passionate, also crazy people, like, I
That's
mean, you
how I
just
met
really
you,
meet all
Doctor.
kinds, right? Like, I mean, and I mean, but it's like it's the full range. I mean, you meet some people, you're just like, whoa, that guy is way more than I ever wanted to deal with, right? Like
And
sometimes
there's
it's that,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
sometimes it's just like, wow, man, I love seeing someone with that kind of passion, you know,
For
like
sure.
you love
Yeah.
that too, right? Like it's the whole thing, but all of the whole pageant of it is so fun. And I don't know what I would do if I wasn't in something this like crazy and fast moving.
Um, I wanted to share with you kind of the way the show works. A lot of times I have a co-host, so I would like to invite you back on the show in a future episode as a co-host. If there's some interesting topic you want to discover, we could get somebody else on and have you on as a co-host.
Oh wow.
Also, if there's any interesting industry stuff that comes up, you know, like I love the stuff that you're talking about. Like I just recently discovered the ratio of trim to bud in pre-rolls. You know, we talked about that
Yeah.
in my little impromptu interview I did with you at the after party at MJ Unpacked. And that was an interesting conversation. If you have little tidbits like that you'd like to share with the audience, or interesting breaking industry news or anything, we can get on the Social Equity in Missouri Cannabis podcast, and we can just do it, you know, a short, you know, blast out to the audience anything interesting that's going on with updates by Dr. Jeff.
Awesome, man.
We could do something like that. Yeah, so I'd love to have you back on. If you have thoughts about an interesting guest for a podcast, I'd be receptive to hearing about that. I love your energy,
Absolutely.
bro. You're one of these characters. You were just talking about these interesting characters you meet, and right away, I loved your passion in your talk. You weren't afraid to be, you know, jump out there and say controversial stuff and tell the truth, and I think that resonates with me.
Thanks, David. I really appreciate it. I've had a great time talking to you tonight, man. It's been really awesome.
It's been a lot of fun. I really hope that this, in some kind of way, will help what you're doing there at the Institute of Cannabis Science. I believe in your mission there. But as a final thought, before we go, would you like to tell the people what your mission at the Institute of Cannabis Science is in your own words?
Oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be able to quote this because so the Institute of Cannabis Science, we've recently approved a new mission statement, but I haven't drilled it enough yet to
Oh,
rattle it off,
oh no.
on command. So I'm feeling a shortcoming, but
Well, that's okay. Just
but the Institute of Cannabis Science is protecting consumers using through engaging with regulators, through education, and scientific analysis. So that's close enough with only a minor butchering, and that is what we're doing every day.
very
And
good.
every single conversation that I have with an enthusiastic person like you, David, brings us a step forward. So I'm really glad I got to be here, man.
I'm so glad you came on the show. And for those people that don't know, I did not have a show for today. I emailed Dr. Jeff this morning and said, "Hey, I need a guest. Could you want to come on?" And he said, "Sure, I'll do it." So
Yeah, well, I needed someone to talk to tonight, so it worked out pretty well.
awesome. I did too. So, and I've really enjoyed our time together, and we need to do this again. I think this has been fun. I think the audience, this is a topic matter that resonates with the audience. And if it doesn't resonate with the audience, I'll drill it into them long enough that eventually it'll have to resonate with someone.
Yeah, or tell us what you want to hear about.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Sure. And that's one thing that I like about my show is people can chime in and talk about, you know, guests that they want to have or topics that they want to discuss. And
I love it.
yeah, that's fun doing the live stream. Okay, all right, brother. I think that'll wrap it up for me. Thanks everybody so much for watching. I hope that you had a good time and you learned something tonight with Dr. Jeff, our amazing guest, Dr. Jeff. Thanks so much for being on again at the last minute, Dr. Jeff. I appreciate you, brother.
All right, thank you.
Have a good evening, everybody. Take care.